what if the timeline for the end of days that you thought you knew was actually only half the story? Today, we're diving into a really detailed prophetic framework that doubles that timeline from 7 years to a full 14. So, this is the big question we're looking at. The theory we're breaking down today isn't some vague prediction. Nope. It's laid out like a meticulously structured script, complete with specific triggers, named key players, in very distinct phases, all leading to a final conclusion. Now, just to be clear, our goal here isn't to validate or debate this interpretation. We're here to understand its structure, as presented by the source, Ministry Revealed. We're basically looking at the mechanics of this timeline, from start to finish. And look, this is just the highlight reel, the big picture. If you want to get into the nitty-gritty, the deep scriptural analysis behind all this, we've put the link to the original video from Ministry Revealed right down in the description for you. So how does a massive 14-year clock even start ticking? Well, according to this framework, it's not a slow burn. It's ignited by a critical 50-day prelude, a rapid-fire sequence of events that changes the world forever and really sets the stage for everything that follows. Okay, so the first piece of this puzzle we need to wrap our heads around is what the source calls the above portion. Think of it like a self-contained 50-day countdown that acts as the trigger for the entire 14-year tribulation. It's the match that lights the whole fuse. And these 50 days, they are absolutely jam-packed with chaos. It kicks off with a mysterious vanishing event, and bam, right after that, Israel hits Iran with a tactical nuke. The retaliation sparks a week-long war that ends in a ceasefire. And just when you think things can't get any crazier, a figure known as the White Horse Rider appears and issues a 40-day global warning. Wow. All right, so once that insane 50-day prelude is over, the official 14-year timeline kicks off. And this is the moment the world transitions from a regional mess into an all-out global war. And that transition is so important to understand. The 50-day prelude was the setup, right? The appetizer. The second it ends, the main course begins. The 14-year period of escalating global judgments, known as the seals and trumpets. Now, this is a huge part of the theory. It argues there are two horsemen, and they are definitely not the same. The White Horse Rider shows up during that prelude with a message of warning, a final chance. But the Red Horse Rider, appearing at the very start of the 14 years, has a completely different mission: to remove all peace from the earth. In other words, he's the starting pistol for World War III. The arrival of the Red Horse Rider is seen as the direct fulfillment of this prophecy. It's not a slow escalation. It's the definitive starting gun for global war, the beginnings of sorrows. And according to this theory, that war has a very, very specific flashpoint. So the global conflict doesn't just ignite randomly. This framework pinpoints the very first major act of this new world war as a direct attack on Jerusalem, led by its northern neighbor, Syria. Okay, so this devastating global war creates the perfect storm of chaos and fear for the timeline's main antagonist to consolidate power. This entity, which is more of a system than a single figure, is referred to as the Beast. And this is where the theory gets incredibly specific. It identifies the first component of this beast system, the lion, with Syrian leader Assad. Now why? The justification for this is a historical name change. His father changed the family name from al-Wash, which means the beast, to al-Assad, which means the lion. But the beast isn't just one person or one nation. It's presented as a composite system, a coalition of three distinct powers working together. You've got Syria as the mouth, the one who starts the fight. Russia is the feet of a bear, bringing the military muscle. And a European power serves as the body of a leopard, basically the central command and control for the whole operation. And what's really important to get here is that this antagonist doesn't rise to power late in the timeline. According to this interpretation, the beast system is active and orchestrating the global war from day one of the 14-year period. So, about 2.5 years into this global war, the timeline hits a huge turning point. This is when the nature of the beast's power fundamentally changes, becoming absolute. The key phrase here, taken right from scripture, is to continue. See, the beast system was already there, but now it's granted absolute global authority for a specific period of 42 months or 3.5 years. This is the period most people associate with the infamous Mark of the Beast.
This life cycle of the beast's power is really central to the theory. First, it was reigning for those 42 months. Then, right at the 7-year mark, it is not, defeated and gone from the world stage. And finally, it shall ascend, making a dramatic return from the bottomless pit for the final war.
And this slide really highlights a core argument of this theory. You see these 3 prophetic timeframes, 42 months, 1,260 days, and time times and a half a time, all the time, and a lot of folks treat them as interchangeable, but this framework argues they are 3 separate, sequential phases, each describing a different part of the 14-year timeline. Okay, this brings us to the final act of this epic timeline. After a period of absence where the beast is not, the stage is set for its dramatic and terrifying return. This return is triggered by a very specific event. A key is used to open the bottomless pit, a place of confinement for certain spiritual entities in this worldview. This act unleashes the antagonist back onto the world stage for one final conflict. Once it returns, though, the beast's time is limited. It's granted a final, specific duration of 2.5 years to wage war, and this last push leads directly to the conclusion of the entire 14-year period. So when you step back and look at the entire structure, you see this complete narrative arc. It begins with global war, moves to a period of absolute tyrannical rule, followed by the antagonist's defeat and absence, and it all culminates in a final climactic return and the conclusion of the 14 years. Ultimately, this 14-year framework is a complex and highly structured narrative, an attempt to create a precise map of future events from ancient prophecy. And it leaves us with a compelling question. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, why are we so drawn to these detailed timelines? What does our search for a script in the chaos say about our need for meaning and order? That's something to think about.